Hello, I would like to talk about the importance of using emphasis in your writing to help you to improve your writing skills. Now, if you could follow along with me, I've divided this video into two parts because there's quite a bit of information to teach you on how you can improve your writing and with different skills in using emphasis. So there are a variety of methods that can be used to make a paragraph or part of a paragraph emphatic. Now, emphasis requires that some ideas stand out and ideas of lesser importance are kept in the background. So sometimes you have to decide which ideas you want to showcase and which you want to not be as strongly emphasized. Now, keep in mind that the beginning and the ending of a paragraph are always important. The opening sentence is crucial because you're introducing your topic and you want the reader to keep on reading and complete your writing, and complete the reading of your writing. And your concluding sentence is you want it to leave a lasting impression on your reader. So keep in mind that first impressions are lasting, and they also encourage your reader to continue reading your writing. So as well, a good ending will be well remembered and may leave an impact, and you hope it will leave an impact on the reader. So I have included main methods of emphasis to help to improve your writing style. So the first one is you should always have a forceful and a clear introduction. And I will expand on each of these ideas within the next two videos on adding emphasis to your writing. You also want to have an effective conclusion called a clincher sentence. You want to be careful to use and repeat key words or phrases without being boring or too repetitive. You do want to repeat some key words or phrases to keep your reader focused. You're also going to want to include effective examples and illustrations in your paragraph for emphasis. You might want to use comparisons and contrasts. You will want to choose some kind of a climatic arrangement, that should be an NT, a climatic arrangement to your writing and decide what kind of an arrangement to use. You want to start, try to write using active verbs, and I will explain this in more detail, but there's also a video on the use of active and passive voice in my website. You also want to be sure you're using effective language or word choice. You're using colorful descriptions and clear descriptive language. Now, I have a very helpful video called Improving Your Writing, and in that video, which you'll find in this website, I have taught you how to use language effectively and to choose words effectively. And that is a very helpful video to improve your writing skills. So here are some methods that I've come up with and I'd like to share with you that will help to add emphasis to your writing. Excuse me. The first one is be sure your introductory sentence is clear and forceful. So the purpose of the opening sentence of your paragraph is to build interest in your topic. You want to get your reader interested so your reader will continue to read and read on. So the opening sentence, or it may be the first two sentences, must announce your topic. You must say fairly quickly to the beginning of your paragraph what your topic is, what you want to prove. It's only one paragraph, so you really have to get to the point very quickly. So here are some suggestions of how you may want to start your paragraph to get your reader's interest. First, you might start by asking a short question, so that way you're getting your reader thinking. You might start with a surprise statement for a little bit of shock value. You might want to include a surprising or interesting statistic. You may begin with an interesting fact. You might use an interesting quotation, so you might use a quote from a famous person, but it should be a very short quotation because it's a paragraph. You may want to start by defining a word that's central to your topic. So if, let's say, you're writing about what it means to procrastinate, you might want to start with a definition of procrastination and then go on from there. And the last point is you might want to state your opinion on your subject. If it's that kind of a topic where you would want to state your opinion and then you go on to prove your opinion in the body paragraph, in your supporting details. The important thing is you want to hook your reader immediately in order to catch his or her interest. That's what's important to do in your opening sentence. Now here are some pointers of what you should avoid, approaches you should avoid when you're writing your introduction or when you edit your paragraph. Go back and see if you've included any comments similar to this, and if you have, you should try to change them or eliminate them. So here are some suggestions. One is, I said, don't start with a very vague generalization or a sweeping statement such as, throughout history, this is what's happened, or according to mankind. They're quite boring and they're very vague generalizations. Be more specific. Another beginning to avoid would be the following expressions. This paragraph will discuss, or I am going to write about. Another one, I hope that this paragraph will teach you. All right, these are very unoriginal, and you want to try to be much more original in your writing. So you're using your opening sentence to introduce your topic in an interesting way. So by saying this paragraph will discuss, well, of course we know that's what you're going to be talking about. Or I'm going to write about, no, don't even include that, just get right into the point. Or I hope that this paragraph will teach you sounds weak. You know it's going to teach me something, so don't say, I hope it will, and if it doesn't, I'm sorry, and you're making an apology. Just get right to the point, be forceful, be clear. Have confidence in what you're saying. Another point you would want to avoid is you wouldn't want to start with a definition from the dictionary and begin by saying according to the dictionary and then give the dictionary meaning. You'll immediately lose the interest of your reader. Why not just start with your own interpretation or your own definition? Look a word up in the dictionary and use your own words, but you don't have to say according to the dictionary. So these are all openings or beginnings that are very boring and you could easily lose your reader. And another point that's important, another approach to avoid is you should never apologize for your point of view, or do not apologize by saying that you don't have sufficient knowledge on your topic. So I've given you a couple of ideas here, a couple of examples. Avoid saying, I am not exactly sure, but it sounds weak. It sounds like you're not strong in your argument. Or, I think, but I'm not certain. Then don't say it. If you're not certain, get some supporting detail that you are certain about. Or perhaps I am wrong, but... Again, these statements weaken your argument and they must be avoided. Okay, a few other ideas of how to add emphasis to your writing. Begin your sentences with important words. Make sure that your important ideas begin each sentence. Placing keywords at the beginning of your sentence will connect it with the sentence before, the preceding sentence, and hold the reader's interest. So if you try to put the most important idea, the most important words at the beginning of your sentence, you'll hold your reader and you'll link your idea to the sentence before. A third point to add emphasis is to try to end all your sentences with important words or phrases. So your important words should be at the beginning of your sentence, and you also want to end your sentence with something of importance. I've given you a couple of examples here. Here's a weak sentence, and this is a strong one. This one's weak. The day that you first have a laugh at your own expense is the day that you really grow up. Okay, now take a look at the strong one. It's the same idea, but you're restructuring it and you're rephrasing it. You grow up the day you have your first real laugh at yourself. So you're starting importantly by saying you grow up as opposed to the day that you have a first laugh. You're starting with you grow up because that's what you want to emphasize. The day you have your first real laugh at yourself. Now the important phrase is at the end, and you see how you can use the dash for emphasis at yourself. So this is including the most important phrase at the end, so you really keep the reader thinking. Okay, here's a fourth idea. Your conclusion should always include a clincher, and that also adds emphasis to your writing. This is the finishing touch to your paragraph. It's the last thing you're saying in that paragraph. So it should leave the reader with something to think about, and you want your reader to feel satisfied. So here are some strategies to make your concluding sentence more effective. So if you'd like to follow with me, and I'll explain each. The first is that your conclusion can end with a challenging or thought-provoking question, a short question. You get your reader thinking. It's thought-provoking, so it gives the reader something to think about in the future. You might ask your reader to become more aware or take action. Let's say you're talking about something that you're passionate about, an environmental issue that's important to you. You might want to request that the reader become more aware or take some action. Your concluding sentence can briefly summarize the points you raised in the paragraph. So if you want to summarize your ideas, don't copy and use the same language, the same diction or words. Rephrase and write a brief summary in your conclusion of what you've talked about in the body of your paragraph. You might use the strategy of making a prediction for the future, or you may end with a quotation, but a short quotation, or you may write an interesting summary of what you discussed in the paragraph. So it could be, this is sort of linked to this idea here. It can be a brief summary or a little bit more of an interesting summary with a few further ideas, but both are linked, having some sort of a summary at the end. Here are some conclusions that I suggest you avoid. Avoid these comments. As you can see, this paragraph has shown you. Or, I hope that this paragraph has proven that. Now, these are very weak comments because your paragraph should have included enough proof that you shouldn't have to apologize. This type of comment makes your paragraph and argument seem very weak, so avoid it. Again, avoid apologizing. For example, avoid a comment like, even though I'm not an expert in this field, I hope or think that this paragraph, and going on from there. Again, comments like this demonstrate that you don't have confidence in your own writing. You're worried that your argument hasn't been strong enough. If you think your argument's not strong enough, you shouldn't be writing about that topic, or you need to do research, or you need to rewrite your paragraph, or your essay, or your letter, or your business report, or whatever you're expressing. You want to show your audience every time you write that you're strong and that you're confident, that you're teaching your reader or your audience something. Another point is don't just reword your introduction. You don't want to take your opening sentence and then almost copy it word for word in your conclusion. You want to capture an interesting thought in your final sentence, which is a clincher. You don't want to be repetitive. Also, don't change direction or add a new idea. You can't all of a sudden change direction or come up with a whole new thought in your conclusion. And don't make a conclusion that isn't reasonable based on the argument and details you presented. What I mean by this is, I've given you an example right here. If your paragraph is about why your boss is not effective, don't end by saying all bosses have similar weaknesses. Even if you've talked about two bosses that have similar weaknesses, say weak managerial skills, you do not want to end with such an unreasonable statement by saying all bosses have similar weaknesses. Okay, other pointers to add influence to your writing. You can include your parenthetical expressions between keywords in your sentences. Now follow with me and I'll explain what I mean. It is best to include parenthetical expressions in the middle of your sentence because you always want to save the beginning and end position of your sentence for key words to add emphasis. You want to try to avoid beginning sentences with these words right here. You want to avoid words such as however, I think, therefore. This is a weak way to start a sentence. So here's some examples right here. This first one is weak, and this one is strong. It's forceful. The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a masterpiece, in my opinion. Okay, it's the beginning of it is okay because you are talking about the name of the book, The Hound of the Baskervilles. But look at the difference in the ending. In this one, it's more forceful. The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is, in my opinion. So there's your parenthetical expression, but in the middle of the sentence, a masterpiece. So you're ending with the fact that it's a wonderful piece of writing. You're ending with the important idea here that it's a masterpiece. The fact that that's your opinion isn't crucial to what you're trying to say. What you're saying is you really need to read this book. So your parenthetical expression is here, in my opinion, in the middle of the sentence and not at the end. Okay, moving on. You should try to write in climatic order if it lends itself to your writing. You can arrange your ideas either from the least important and end with the strongest idea, or you can go from the strongest to the weakest. It's usually most effective if you're able to end with your strongest idea, but it doesn't have to be this way. But you do need to have some kind of order. So you're either going from strongest to weakest argument or weakest to the strongest. Now, I have a video in this unit, in the paragraph unit, called Coherence, Order of Importance, and I introduce you to 3 types of writing. You can either write order of importance, you can write in chronological or time order, or you can write in space order. So review that, and that will help you to know how to write in order and how to write in climatic order. And the last point that I want to raise in this video is that it's effective to try to use the active voice and not the passive voice in your writing. Now, writing in the active voice is often clearer, so if you can use active verbs, it adds more emphasis to your writing. So try to use more active verbs than passive verbs. Now let me explain what I mean by this. The active voice is more direct and clear. It's called the active voice because it emphasizes the person who's doing the action. So when the person doing the action is emphasized, it's called the active voice. And active verbs are often very effective, and they're simple, but they have more of a vigorous style. They add more emphasis to your writing. So let's look at these examples. The first one, here's the use of the active voice. Jean baked the cake for the birthday party. All right, this is the active voice, baked. And who's doing the baking? Jean. So the subject is performing the action. The subject is Jean. She's performing the action, and what she's doing, she's baking the cake. It's simple, but it's forceful, and it's to the point. In this example, the cake was baked by Jean for the birthday party. The subject is cake, and it's being acted upon here. The cake was baked by Jean. It's not as direct. So this form is much better in most writing, using the active voice. A couple more examples. The manager decided to postpone the business meeting due to inclement weather. This is the active voice. It's the manager, and he's acting upon the verb. It's clear, and it's to the point. But in this example, the passive voice, look how wordy this sentence is. The decision that was reached by the manager was to postpone the business meeting due to inclement weather. This one's a lot clearer, a lot more emphatic. Now, sometimes, though, you might want to use the passive voice depending on the focus of your sentence. Here's an active voice. Your carelessness seriously hurt Gary. The passive voice, Gary, was seriously hurt because of your carelessness. Let's look at the difference in these 2 sentences. The active voice here, this sentence, emphasizes your carelessness in the situation. If that's what you wanted to emphasize by saying your carelessness was what hurt Gary, then you'd use the active. But the passive voice is appropriate here if you want to receive the receiver of the action, Gary, and you want to stress the fact that Gary was seriously hurt, then the passive voice is better. Gary was hurt because of your carelessness. So again, please review my video on the use of active and passive voice if you do not understand what the difference is, because I have a fairly lengthy video which will help you with this. So what you should do is read the rough draft of your paragraph carefully. If you've used the passive verb, then think about who's doing the action, and you want to decide where you want to put your emphasis in the sentence. So you choose the active voice more frequently, unless there's a good reason why you want to go with the passive voice. So lots of pointers there. Please feel free to review these ideas on how to add emphasis to your writing. And I have a part 2 on using emphasis in your writing with more pointers. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you again soon.